Instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod. All right, well, welcome to another Flagstick Podcast presented by TaylorMade Golf Canada, introducing Stealth with carbon face for better energy transfer and more ball speed. Welcome to the carbon wood age. To learn more, visit taylormadegolf.ca. Well, we're back at it again, Scott, for another episode 3. 3 times a charm, I guess, right? Or 3's a crowd. I don't know if that really fits, but, the only thing that would have made this weekend, I think, a little bit better. And welcome listeners, welcome viewers. Glad you could join us again. It's going to be a great show. But the only thing that could have made this weekend better, as far as the Masters was going on and stuff, and we will get into that discussion, but not just yet, is if the weather had been a little bit more spring-like, without the snow, just that you kind of feel like, okay, the Masters is here. We got all these course openings. We're seeing the stuff propagating on our website with the course opening calendar. And then we get some snow and slushy stuff. And, it just,
you got it. We were okay down here.
All right,
but you're right. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, the Masters, obviously, for a lot of people, is a sign of spring, a sign of the golf season coming and so forth. But I don't think it stopped a lot of people. There was definitely people that were out golfing in the region. Yeah. There were courses open, ranges that were open. But you're right. It didn't have that sort of same feel, and it's not just the golf, too. It's the case of getting out in the yard and doing some things outside the house. Yeah. But, you open the door and all of a sudden a cold wind comes through and it's 4 degrees and you're like,
what is happening?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the couch. I don't think I'm really going to go for a walk or anything, but at least we had the Masters to watch and to keep us company for sure.
To comfort us and warm us up on the throughout the weekend. Yeah, it was.
Although they were pretty cold down there on Saturday too. So
yeah, it was kind of funny to see such a difference in we're jumping ahead to something that we really want to get into in the front 9 this week, but so. Let's just jump in. We do have a lot to get over. There's lots, once again, there's no shortage of great topics to dive into this week. Obviously, we're going to wrap up the Masters. We're going to talk about that because there was a lot of different storylines, a lot of excitement going on throughout the weekend. We're going to talk a little bit about sports betting, and in particular, sports betting on golf, something that relates to the web poll we have on flagstick.com right now. Interesting results there. Some more regional, national golf talk, of course. And in our product watch this week, a little bit more about a discussion of the evolution of a product. Plus, we're going to dive into one of the more popular golf carts that are out there right now. Mm-hmm. And of course, we're going to head to the lesson tee with Kevin Hain. We're going to get a little bit more instruction, more help for our golf game. All that's coming up throughout the whole show. So let's get right into the front 9, presented obviously once again by Metcalf Golf Club, a natural setting, a present challenge. Looking for fun golf at a great rate, save 15% when you prepay. Visit metcalfgolf.com to book or to buy those prepaid passes. Okay, Scott. Let's get the first little tidbit out of the way. We're not going to talk about this every single episode because the closer we get to the opening of the season, obviously the less discussion we're going to be having about course openings because everybody will be open. But, given the weather this weekend, and I know that I just saw a text or a message come through from Metcalf Golf Club from Radar Rob. Everybody should know Radar Rob, right? And they've had to push back their opening by a week because of the rain that's coming apparently, and the rain that we've had. It's just, so is that what we're seeing? Is some courses opening, but some sort of pushing it back?
Yeah, I mean, the tipping point is probably still, I don't know, I'd probably say about 3 weeks away, where you'd have more courses open than closed. So you're going to see a lot of openings in the next little while, but you're right. There's been delays at a number of places, got prospective dates from golf courses. Metcalf would be one for an example. Then next thing you know, a little bit of snow, a little bit more moisture, not the best conditions. I mean, people will tolerate it. I mean, people are excited to get out there and play, and there are golf courses that are opening already, but you're certainly getting, plug golf balls, wet feet, that sort of thing. So it's really the diehards right now. A lot more people are probably heading to the ranges, certainly more ranges that are opening even today. I know my own golf course at Garrison down here in Kingston, their range opens today. So who knows, right after this podcast, maybe I'll be hitting some balls outside. But yeah, that's the case for a lot of the courses, although ones like Dragonfly got open just minutes ago.
I saw the video posted on Facebook of the first ball there getting hit. So
so I think you're just going to see that in general. I would say everybody, if you're thinking about going to a golf course and maybe they've announced a date, give them a call first. Give them a call in advance and kind of find them. But on the other side, check their websites first. Or check our website first to see the calendar. That's a little bit more comprehensive and easier way to see things. I would say most golf courses need to be a little bit more diligent about posting their prospective dates when they have them. And I understand not everybody has them.
Yeah.
And, they're waiting on certain things from their superintendents, from their grounds crew to say, hey, yeah, you know what, we're ready to go. But definitely a little bit of pushback. But again, it's, as we record this, it's April 11th. As the show comes out, it's April 13th. So it is awful early. And, Eastern Ontario, if we can be out, by May 1st, I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah, no question. I mean, there's always a few where we get really early openings. I mean, I can recall a bunch of years back that there was a couple of courses open in late March. It's not normal.
No, it's not.
It's just, it's, patience. I know we're dying to get out there and play, but be patient. And please, if I get one, and I mean one single text message or DM or post of any kind from anybody saying, I was out at such and such a golf course and it was in pretty crappy shape, I might jump through the internet and
that goes back to last week.
Dumb.
Yeah, that goes back to last week. When we talked about driving golf carts and go drive the cart on your lawn, go out and look at your own lawn and then consider what it's going to be as far as a golf course is concerned. We need warmth, we need growth, we need moisture. I mean, we have no shortage of moisture, but we need warmth. So be patient as far as the conditions are concerned. Just be happy to be out there if you do get an opportunity to get out there, and be grateful for the staff as well that are already mucking in and getting ready for a long golf season.
All right. We don't want to touch on this a lot, Scott, because I mean, neither one of us are really experts on the subject either. So, but we did put on flagstick.com, we posted a web poll this week, and the web poll question was basically asking people if they were going to participate in sports betting.
Yeah.
It's a resounding no from the respondents on the poll. Now, obviously our
resounding yes.
What's that?
Resounding yes.
Did I read it wrong?
It's 85% yes.
Oh, I'm an idiot.
Notes.
I completely read the results wrong. You're right. It is an 85% yes. Can't even read my own freaking notes. Now, do you think the question was sports betting?
Yeah, and online more than anything.
Yeah,
because now there's legality in Ontario to be able to do that versus having to do it outside of Ontario.
Right. So, given that we are a golf website and that people are responding, do you think the people are responding in that? Do you think there's really going to be that much action on something like what just happened with the Masters? Like, do you think there was a lot of betting on the Masters, particularly from people that would come view our website, obviously?
Oh yeah, it's huge. And I mean, as I said, a lot of that betting has been done previously in other entities and things outside the province of Ontario where we are, for an example. So here's the thing, even before that betting became prevalent as far as online for sports books and things like that, people were doing it in their own homes and doing their own pools and everything as well. So it's just a natural evolution as far as what has happened over the years. Obviously the PGA Tour now has got, they've got betting partners. It's just the evolution of sports to keep people engaged. Now, can it go sideways? Certainly. It's like anything else. If people are doing it too much to their detriment, it should purely obviously be for entertainment purposes. If you're trying to do this as a full-time job, good luck with that. It's not going to go well, I don't think. But I would say, I'm not too surprised by the polling, because again, people are already doing it with their buddies, they're doing it with friends, they're running golf pools, they're buying squares, they're picking teams, they're doing fantasy stuff. There's more of that happening now, and there's more of it happening within golf. So I really wasn't surprised by the results.
Is there a concern at all? And I'm not saying that I'm the guy that's concerned. I don't know that I am, but let me play a little bit of the devil's advocate here. Is there a concern at all with a sport like golf, similar to like a sport like tennis, where it's an individual sport, where one individual person, even though how they play that week is hit and miss, they could be really, really good, or they could be really, really bad. But if they're really, really good, they can control the outcome of a tournament relative to themselves with a single swing of a club, or a 4-putt on the 18th. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying here? Like if you're a betting, like, there's, because we see instances of this in other sports where, go back to the baseball many years ago,
baseball, basketball,
where an entire team pretty much threw a game in order to for the sake of winning money. So with a sport like golf, where there's more factors at play when someone wins or loses a tournament, but it's not necessarily, you're not necessarily betting on someone winning or losing a tournament. Maybe you're betting on somebody finishing the top 10 or the top 20, and they bet on themselves to finish inside the top 10 or outside the top 10, and they're sitting in ninth, and they decide, you know what, I'm going to make $100,000 finishing ninth, but I'm gonna if I finish 11th, I'm gonna win $500,000 because I bet on I'm not saying that's gonna happen. I think there's a lot more integrity to the game of golf but we've seen instances where integrity gets thrown out the window too.
I'm sure it's bound to happen at some point there, but again, we're talking the exception, not the rule.
Right.
But certainly that would be a concern, especially as you get down and start looking at, how far does the betting go? Does it start to go to a different level where athletes are not able to make the money playing the sport, and they could make more money gambling? It's different in PGA Tour. I mean, Scottie Scheffler's winning $2.7 million, and other players that are in there, could there be bigger stakes available? Yeah, but that would start to look pretty suspicious as far as the sports books are concerned. It might be a case of, if all of a sudden it becomes prevalent more at Corn Ferry Tour or PGA Tour Canada or stuff like that, where these athletes are not making as much money. But again, there's probably not going to be the volume of bets there.
Well, I was just gonna say, there's probably not gonna be a whole lot of people betting on who's going to win the Corn Ferry Tour event as there would be on the PGA Tour. So that becomes not irrelevant, but it's less of a discussion point, I suppose.
I think it becomes a little self-regulating, and knowing that there is always going to be the exception. And you can definitely look back at certain scandals over the years of college basketball players where the players, they know they're maybe not going to turn pro, but there's a little high volume of interest in college sports. There's a high volume of betting involved, and there's more temptation there at that level. So it's certainly something associations always have to be careful about of the betting. But on the other side of it, they look at it as far as fan engagement. If people have a rooting interest in a sport, in a player, I mean, we'll talk about our little bet on the week or whatever, but at least it's something else that keeps you interested in the activity. And that's part of the reason why, the associations, besides making money themselves, why it becomes important to them.
I get fearful sometimes of anything that, because you know how badly betting, the addiction of betting and gambling can be. And I mean, maybe I'm just the guy that sits here and is afraid of everything. I don't know, but I fear what can happen long term to people when more and more and more of this kind of stuff becomes available and becomes an option for people to take their hard-earned money and to put too much of it into something. And it's self-control, right? I mean, it's not the PGA Tour doesn't give a crap whether you drop 10 grand on who's winning the Masters and you lose it all. They don't care, because they just, you know, they just made some money because they have a self-serving interest in you betting for a number of reasons, whether it's fan engagement or not. So that's the only thing that I fear. Is I know betting's been around forever, and I'm not discouraging people from doing it per se. Maybe I'm just saying, you know, it's a slippery slope, and I'm a little fearful of some people just don't have the ability to self-control.
Yeah. And I just find it always interesting how, you know, the betting runs in, you know, some sports like golf, for an example. So let's look at even at the amateur level. You know, a lot of people go out and they want to play better and they want to do well. But it almost becomes like, you know, basketball or football, where they're just trying to cover the bets, and it's not about who wins, it's about, you know, winning your bet. So, you know, I always joke, there's one guy that you know, he would play at our golf course, and he would talk about, you know, the game and, you know, getting his handicap up and whatever, and I'm like, do you want to win the golf or do you want to win the math? And the math was about,
I like that. That's funny.
Yeah, but the math was about winning his bets, right? And I get it if somebody is playing an honest, straight up game of, you know, what your true ability is, and that's net, and that's why, you know, obviously it's supposed to be there. But, you know, when people are manipulating that, you know, and looking to win the math and not win the sport, I don't think that's the essence of sport. The essence of sport is competing as best as you can.
Yes.
Granted, that's in a different way. You are competing in somewhat yourself and your handicap or whatever, and that's supposed to be somewhat even. But once things get handicapped, it gets a little dicey there, as far as people trying to manipulate things more than going out and you and I play and a par ties, you know, and a birdie beats a bogey, and, you know, whatever the case may be, instead of all of a sudden that being net. So again, I guess that's up to them as far as what their interest in the sport is. But, you know, obviously I like the purity of not covering your lines, but, you know, the actual outcome, the real outcome.
Exactly. Now, before we're gonna switch, and we're going to start talking about the Masters. Obviously, we want to get into that, but as we bridge into that a little bit, as we move in there, I just want to leave the betting conversation with kind of an analogy about how our bet went. That obviously on the last episode we bet that our choices, yours being Cameron Smith, and mine being Will Zalatoris, and you won that bet. So barely. I do owe you lunch.
Barely.
Yes, barely. But I guess, and congratulations to you. We will do that soon. I hate you. But the reference I want to make to that as we move into talking about the Masters is that from a betting perspective, we had a bet.
Yeah.
And Cameron Smith was right there up until the 12th hole. When things went sideways, he was right there, and I was rooting for him because I was rooting for golf. I was rooting for, let's see some back nine out. Let's see this get closer. Let's see the pressure, because really there was no pressure.
Which was there kind of after two holes more than anything, and then but we'll get to that.
But as soon as that happened, I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait a minute. I hope that Cameron Smith starts gagging up even more, because I could win lunch. So from a betting perspective, I stopped betting on the golf,
right?
Because the tournament at that point was pretty much
became interested in your bet.
I became interested in what I was about to win. I became interested not so much in the math, but the sandwich. You know, so that's to your point is
right.
I started thinking about the bet that I made and not paying attention to the golf that was happening. So
but that's where that's where that engagement happens, because not every tournament is going to be exciting.
No.
But if you've got a fantasy team, and I mean, I talk to people all the time about who they've got in their lineup and whatever for the week and whatever, if that gets them to turn on the TV and kind of see where the players are at or find out the results, then it serves its purposes, because the chances of picking a winner, it's tough to pick a winner. I mean, if you're talking about a field, I mean, Masters a little easier because you've got 90 players, you've got, kind of the best players that are there, as opposed to a normal field of 144 players, for an example. It's pretty tough to pick a winner. So that's why it's easier to have the interest in more players than anything. But I thought Zalatoris, once he got to 3 there and Cam was backing up, I'm like, oh man, this could be just a push. You never know. And
it was getting close. Like it was just going to be straight up 3 under, 3 under. And I'm like, but good for Cameron Smith to rebound. I mean, that's the good part. And I guess, with that, let's sort of talk about the Masters, because first major of the year, second major in the golf world of the year,
men's major.
Yes, the first men's major of the year. Is the one we all look forward to. I don't think there's a tournament that happens on the PGA Tour that we don't get that people don't get more excited about. I mean, all the majors are exciting, but because the Masters has always been first, it's the one we and it's Augusta National. It's a beautiful golf course, but despite the fact that Scheffler kind of ran away with it, there were no shortage of exciting things happening throughout the round. Like even from players that were not finishing in the top 10, there was some exciting golf. And I guess the biggest topic or biggest discussion point that came from this Masters was whether or not Tiger was going to play, whether or not when he decided he was going to play, if he was going to play well, whether or not after he played well for Thursday and Friday, if he was going to play well on the weekend, and maybe on the weekend, maybe it was whether or not he was going to break 80 on Sunday or Saturday and Sunday, but which he did. But let's talk about that. Just talk about the Tiger side of it for a second, because there was a lot of, I'm going to call it, complaining about how much coverage Tiger was getting versus other players. And I didn't necessarily agree with that, depending on where you watched it. But let's just talk about the Tiger factor and how significant it was.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he hadn't played, a PGA Tour event since the 2020 Masters, so it had been quite some time. He was the 2019 champion. He's the only 5-time champion in the field. Obviously, we had the accident and his recovery from that. So those created a lot of storylines. And in essence, it was kind of a savior for the broadcast, because, we are fortunate now that we get broadcast for the Masters starting early in the day. Whereas, back in when we started watching, we'd get, a snippet in the afternoon or whatever. So, they had a pure storyline to follow in the morning. And really, it worked out quite well, because he was done before the leaders kind of went out. And, so it gave them something to focus on. I don't think it was overdone, because I think, if we look at it from a health perspective, his place in the game, his tie to Augusta National, and the fact that, he won first here 25 years ago, the attention, it's well-deserved. And I mean, it doesn't, just because you give attention to one player, it doesn't mean it takes away from what other players are doing. It doesn't, it's not disrespecting Scottie Scheffler or Cameron Smith because you're paying all that attention to Tiger Woods. You can pay attention to all of them. So I think it was it was remarkable actually that he made the cut. The decision to play the week, once he got there, I wasn't sure if he was going to or not. Once he got there, he wanted to play and he was committed. I think he was hurting a lot more than maybe people
you could see it physically think. You could see it.
I think so, yeah. But he was gritty and determined and trying to get there. And you know what, he smiled at the end. And despite the fact that he shot 78 and million putts, as he said, and just being there was an accomplishment. And so for me, it was perfectly fine. I didn't have any expectation that he's going to win. That's a little getting a little carried away. Anyways, what were your thoughts overall?
I didn't have a problem with it myself. In fact, I look at it as, especially the way it sort of transpired on the weekend. While I believe that a lot of people would have tuned in on Sunday early to watch the Masters because it's the Masters, I'm not so sure that as many people would have tuned in to the early the early
Right.
rounds,
Yeah,
on
which had
Sunday, as they
record
did.
numbers on ESPN
Yeah.
Plus. They were off the charts as
I
far
think
as
if he's
the
not in
numbers.
the field, or if he's teeing off at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't
Yeah.
think you got eyeballs at 11
No.
o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning. So I think the
No.
fact that that happened the way it did,
Mhm.
it just goes to show, another thing that it's not my phrase, but it's a phrase that exists out there, in that, they say,
Masters Cup.
that's the Masters Cup with the cranberry and yeah.
Water.
It's just that Tiger doesn't move the needle. That
He is the
Tiger
needle.
is the needle, and
Yeah.
and I think that couldn't have been more true on Sunday than any other round in that tournament. Is that there's no way that needle moves for audience on Sunday morning if he's not playing in the early groups on Sunday. It's just not happening.
Yeah, you just had to look at Monday and how deep the fans were. That looked like a Sunday round on a Monday during a round. So it was fortunate for the people that got tickets for that day. I guess some people don't have a full appreciation for the fact that a year like 2000 for him is a lifetime. It's a career for other players, and 2 years out of his career are enough for most other players to make the Hall of Fame. So I mean, it's that remarkable of what he's done, and how many moments there were, and how many influences are. I mean, Sanjay Im, who's in there, who was a year old when Tiger won his first Masters. He said he's like a god to me. I mean, this is the motivation for a lot of people to have taken up the game, and we can't dismiss his influence that way, and how it inspired all sorts of people to play, young, old, from every background. Like, it's just, and it made a big difference. So, to sit there and complain about it, like, sorry. I mean, if you're on the other side of that, people would be complaining about, oh, where's our exciting players? We need a storyline. It's boring or whatever. Well, guess what? You've got one. So don't look the gift horse in the mouth, for sure.
Well, yeah. And to your point there about Tiger and the career, like some player having, a good season, Tiger having one good season
is a career,
is a career for most guys. You look at Scottie Scheffler. Okay. Here's a guy that's world number one.
Yeah.
He's won 4 of his last 6 starts, and now including a major champion. But, go back 5 years, go back 4 years, go back 3 years. Where is Scottie Scheffler? He's still a good player. He's still doing well, but he's not the player then that he is now.
Well, he's only 25. We have to remember that, despite the fact everybody looks at him and they joke that he looks like he's 40. I mean, he's new,
exactly.
But think about it. As remarkable as he's had right now, do that for 20 straight years.
Well, that's the thing. Is Scottie Scheffler going to be world number one as long as Tiger was world number one when he became world? No, there was a stretch where Greg Norman was world number one for a very long time too. Yeah. The days of a player being at that level for that long a period of time without being surpassed by another player, I really truly believe that those days are gone, long gone. I don't think we're ever going to see another player on the PGA Tour be at that, not necessarily on the PGA Tour, but be world number one for that length of time, be that dominant, win 10 or 11 events in a season, let alone almost doing that in a row. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and having multiple majors in 1 year. I mean, when Brooks Koepka was, kind of came onto the scene and was winning and talking about his strategy for winning, and how he could be dominant because this many players were not as good as him, and so on and so forth. There was all this talk about, every time there's another player that comes up that starts winning, like a Scottie Scheffler, they start talking about our Tiger's records in jeopardy. Is this the next guy to take? No, he's not.
That's the thing. We can learn that from other sports. I mean, that's just, to be able to sustain that level of performance over a long period of time is super difficult. I mean, Vijay Singh won 9 tournaments in a year.
Yeah.
But, and Vijay Singh might be a World Golf Hall of Fame player, but his record pales in comparison to a Tiger Woods. And even, even Vijay and Phil Mickelson, for as much as they won, their records pale in comparison. So, they're amazing golfers.
Yeah.
They
Hall
are
of Fame golfers, no question.
They are Hall of Fame golfers, but to do what Tiger has done, that's hard to do. And generally on the other side of it too, I mean, not many people are going to give up that much in their life to do that at that level. I mean, you have to think now, Scottie Scheffler, and, again, I'm sure his desire is to keep winning more tournaments, keep winning more majors. And, he said in a few quotes that, and he was talking about his wife saying to him before the final round that, golf doesn't define him. He's still going to be the same person and so forth. But that said, he's won over $10 million this year. 10 million. It's April.
Yes.
In 13, 14
There's still
events.
3 majors to go.
Right. So the thing is, for a lot of golfers these days, it starts to be decisions as you work your way through. How long do I want to do this? I mean, there's a lot that goes into being a professional golfer that people don't see or don't understand, and the travel and the time commitment, the work and the time away from family.
Do they do it as long? I guess that's
right,
what you're getting
exactly.
at.
Because as the money gets more and more lucrative, there's not as much motivation to keep doing it. It takes a real commitment to say, you know what, I want to be out there forever and win, 90 events or whatever. Yeah. I mean, at some point you're going, you know what, I'm going to grab a pina colada and I'm going to go sit on the beach and hang out with my family because I don't have to do this. I don't have to be in an airport every Monday.
Well, especially even for someone like, Tiger being the example, right? I mean, here's a guy that keeps coming back from things. Yeah, coming back from breaking the leg issue at the U.S. Open when he had to play off with Rocco Mediate and won on a fractured leg, and
back surgeries
and knee surgeries, and now this car accident and the issue with the 9-iron. I mean, there's so many things that have gone on, the drama that has gone on, and every time he comes back from it,
he chooses to.
Yes, he chooses to. How many people would just choose with that kind of money sitting in the bank and that kind of life that's ahead of you, where you have no worries whatsoever about anything financially the rest of your life? You could stop right now. What in the world drives a player to do that? Is it, like, especially when he's got Charlie coming up, and he can focus on him and where he wants to go with his golf. I mean, obviously he's very young right now. He's not threatening getting college scholarships yet.
Oh God, yeah.
But that's a focus of him. He's very focused on his family. But the drive, is it because of the kids that he wants to continue? Is it Jack's record? Does he truly believe that he can get to 18? And, does he truly believe that he can get to 80? What is it? What's he at now? 80,
he's at 82.
82. So does he think he can get to 83? Like, is that the ultimate? Get the 83 and then be done with it?
Well, I think there's a lot of different motivations, and every single person's got to have their own little goals and what their motivations are. For some of the players, you said at his age, I mean, you want to win that 2019 Masters and your kids to be there and to see that. That's a motivation for a lot of other athletes, be it a Tom Brady and his kids getting to see him win Super Bowls and things like that, because normally you have a separation in the generation and the kids don't even know about it, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
So that can be a motivation. Is that enough to keep someone going? That comes down to the individual for sure. But I guess the thing is that, what's the ceiling on Scheffler? I mean, a lot of people are going to be speculating about it now. It's no different than Colin Morikawa winning 2 majors recently and people going kind of, what's his ceiling? It really comes down to Scheffler more than anything. And I'll say that it's him to do his part, but as we've already said, there's another Scottie Scheffler 2 years behind and
20 of them
behind. They're all over the place. Yeah. Like, and there's more and more players out there.
I guess that's the thing when we look at a player's ceiling, and I know golf analysts, you see them, you hear them talk about it on TV, and here you and we're talking about it, and what's his ceiling? I mean, you're right. It's up to him, but I don't think that I just can't see. I can't see a player like Scottie Scheffler sustaining the level that he's at right now over a long period of time with the amount of talented golfers that are on the tour and that are on the Corn Ferry Tour, that are, there's players that aren't even playing the Corn Ferry or the PGA Tour yet, that are on their way up, that have turned pro. And we know of a few of them that have that passion, that have that drive, that have the skill, and it's only a matter of time. And the difference between the guy winning on the Corn Ferry Tour and the guy winning on the PGA Tour might just be a little itty bit of putting, or it might just be a break.
Confidence.
Yeah, but it might just 100%. Be the case of the guy's not there yet. So once that guy gets there, then he starts to show. I mean, if you're playing the Corn Ferry Tour right now, the only way you're winning is if you're shooting 66s every friggin' round you play. Or better. It's just the nature of the courses that they play. Obviously, they go low. I mean, what Brad Fritz used to tell us that all the time, right? You have to go deep to win on that tour. You don't have to go deep to win on the PGA Tour.
Not always.
Some weeks it helps for sure. But generally the courses are tougher that they play. The conditions with the fans and stuff, it's a little bit more pressure. So everything, so you don't see, you look at the scores aren't quite as low on a week to week basis. So once a guy gets from the Corn Ferry Tour to the PGA Tour, then you start to see, there's 100 of those guys out there.
Yeah, there's less variance in their skill level when you get up to the PGA Tour. So these players are a lot closer to each other. I mean, here's a question I had yesterday for someone. We were talking about Scheffler, and obviously he'd won 3 events out of 5 going into this at Augusta. That creates a lot of self-belief, a lot of resilience, so that when things go sideways, you still believe that you can perform. And obviously he did, and made some critical putts at critical times, and and didn't panic. I mean, his 3rd round, he had 7 pars. 7 pars. And I said, he was riding the wave, and that's what you have to do in golf. Did he necessarily, or would he necessarily have won that Masters if he hadn't have won 3 events out of 5 going in? Because he wouldn't necessarily have that belief in himself that he could get the job done. And, so yeah, I mean, that's part of it, is having that belief in yourself that things will be okay, that just because you made a bogey doesn't mean you're falling apart. It just means you made a bogey, and that you can certainly make more birdies to make up for it. So that belief, how long does that belief last? When do we have fractures in that belief? And generally you'll see on the PGA Tour, most players will make their money for the year in 6 to 7 week periods. That's sort of their bulk time during the year that they make most of their money. And then the rest of the tournaments, they kind of do okay and stuff like that, but they sort of peak because sort of everything comes together. No coach can give them that.
No.
That comes up to them as far as what they have in their head and how they play and how they believe that, they're going to do well no matter what. So we'll see how long that lasts, but I'm sure we're here for the ride.
Well, exactly. Well, 2 weeks ago, who was world number 1?
Yeah, it wasn't him.
And the start of this week, who was the odds-on favorite to win the Masters?
Yeah, it was Rahm.
And where did Rahm finish?
Not well.
Exactly. So, but 2 weeks ago, that's your world number 1, right? I think, yeah. So that's
a few more weeks than that, but yeah.
But so that's how quickly it changes.
Yeah, for sure.
Scheffler.
And now
he's
so he's built up a pretty good lead here. I don't think he can be, knocked off until at least the PGA Championship in May. But again, that's not a long period of time. That's only, a bunch of weeks or whatever. So you're right. Things go in streaks. These players are a lot closer to each other, and they just need little things to happen. I mean, take Corey Connors, and we can transition into that. You know what? Canadian played very well at the Masters, 3 consecutive top 10s, T8, T10, T8, T6, the last 3 Masters. Granted, obviously his final score he's not in contention, even though he's within that top 10. But he just needs some other things to happen to go to that next level. And I mean, he's 31st in the world right now, but who says, you know, a month and a half from now, we're not talking about Corey Connors winning 3 events and having, you know, won a major at you know, in Tulsa, winning a PGA championship and whatever. I mean, that's how quickly the game can go. And he's got belief in himself right now. And every single thing that he does builds that belief.
Yeah. And he's an extraordinary ball striker, which obviously is one of the reasons why he does so well at Augusta. The golf course suits him.
And
he likes it, and the golf course suits his game, being that good a ball striker. You know, but
plus he has got that past experience.
You
know, he knows he's got 3 top 10s there, so it almost feels as an athlete that you should be in the top 10. You're not doubting that you can finish in the top 10.
Exactly.
Right?
When you, and you know, you look at some of the other things. You look at Rory McIlroy yesterday.
Right. Yeah. 64.
He's a perennial 4th round comeback king at Augusta.
Backdoor top 10er. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. At least since the collapse. But this is not a crappy golfer. This is not a flash in the pan golfer. This is Rory McIlroy. This is a guy that could win could win at Southern Hills. He could win at St. Andrews. He could
funny part about him on Friday afternoon through 11 holes, he was 4 over par. There was a wide number of people panning him on Twitter, calling the fact that, oh, it's another Masters for him, missed cut, whatever. And obviously those receipts are out there from people saying that on Twitter, for an example. What it shows to me, sometimes people who even cover the game or talk about the game don't understand the game. It's 72 holes. And there's no order that those 72 holes are in. You need to make the cut.
Yes.
But people need to understand that just because John Rahm, even though he shot 3 under, I guess, in the final round, but he's frustrated and had another bad round in between, doesn't mean he sucks. No. Right.
But it's the storyline, right? They got to have, and I'm not knocking our counterparts that cover golf or whatnot, but just come on. Like it's the storyline. It's like, oh, we need to bash this guy while he's down because it's good. It's a good discussion point for us. It's a good storyline. It's like, come on, really? I mean, this is a top level. This is this is one of the best players on the planet.
Yeah, he's a major champion.
Okay, come on, let's be honest with ourselves here.
Yeah.
Do I get on Bryson DeChambeau's case a little bit? I get on his case a lot because there's a lot that I dislike about Bryson DeChambeau's game, and I say that I dislike about his game because I don't know him as a person. No. So there's nothing that I dislike about him.
Right.
I don't know him. So I'm not, I don't dislike Bryson DeChambeau. What I dislike is, and it's not so much that I dislike it. I just don't understand why he did what he did. And I think he's just one of those golfers that really overthinks everything. And I think that he would be just as good, if not a better player right now, if he'd have just stayed the course as to what he was doing when he was in college and what he came out on the tour and when he was winning leading up to, when he won, I think he won 2 out of the 3 FedEx Cup playoff events. This was before the transformation.
Yeah.
I think this whole transformation thing is just not, I don't think it's sustainable. I think it's dangerous, to be honest with you. Physically, I think it's dangerous.
His choice to deal with or not for us to judge. We can say whether we like it or not.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean we're right or wrong.
Nope. More often than not, we would be wrong. But
sure, it's just an opinion for sure.
That's all it is. It's all it is, and that's all we have is our. We're allowed to have our opinions. That's why I say it's nothing. It's nothing against him as a person. And
I think it's more when somebody states something as a fact rather than saying it's their opinion. I saw some people talking about particular things as certain players, and they're saying, well, he's doing this. And I'm like, well, you don't know that. You may want to preface that, especially if you're a professional. You might want to preface that's your opinion, that it's not correct. I mean, it's no different than teaching golf. A lot of times there's some things that are factual, but a lot of times we have to say, that's my opinion as I know and we understand it at this point in time.
Yeah.
and that's about it. Any other things stand out for you from the Masters? I guess we can wrap it up a little bit.
Obviously Sunday excitement. What happened with Rory and Colin Morikawa on 18 was that was awesome. That was cool. And you see the excitement between the two of them. I mean, obviously for Rory more finishing where he did, given the start that he had. Morikawa was just more, still I think he finished 3 or 4 under. But
5. They were 13 under par between the two of them,
which is awesome. I mean, that's to see a hole out bunker shot on 18 is cool.
Yeah.
To let alone two back to back group, do the same thing, from the same bunker. I mean, albeit they had different shots. One had to play it high and one had to play it straight at it. But that caught my attention a lot. The way that the guys, and I guess Augusta National really lends itself more. And I've never been to Augusta National. You have. I always tell, my youngest Brandon, who's a golfer, and that when we're watching it on TV, I said, I've never been there. I've talked to a lot of people who have been there, but my understanding.
Sorry.
I see the cup and I think about what we were talking about before we came on. Anyways, let it go. That you cannot appreciate how much elevation there is on that golf course, how much of a change there is from tee to green on a lot of those holes, unless you have been there. You can also not appreciate that while you see the trees are very wide spread out, along the sides of the fairways, you can't appreciate how difficult it is when you hit it into the pine straw in those trees, how difficult it is to get it out of there and onto the green, or even in most cases, a lot of these guys, they're not even trying to get it on the green. They're trying to get it to a spot so that they can get their next shot onto the green, because of the way those greens are. It's just the things that you can't see that you have to take people's word for. I think that's another thing that really sort of, it's not just this Masters, but every Masters, but this Masters more than others. I just see a lot of guys hitting it out of the trees and shaping balls out of the trees and rolling down the fairway and being happy with that.
Yeah. I think the cool part now is the evolution of the broadcast has allowed us to see the angles and see the undulations and see things much better. They've got drones there now. They've got different level, cameras on the ground level in different ways. And I think the nuances really show you the difficulty of this golf course. And, that's why there's extreme differences in scoring, yet there's not a dramatic response from a player when all of a sudden they shoot 75. They don't go, oh my God, it was horrific or whatever. They know that it was still a decent round. It was just, they got out of position on a few spots, and, they have to do some things really exceptional to excel here. And that's what a major championship should be anyways. I mean, it should be a test of mental skills, physical skills, techniques, strategy. There's a lot of things that have to come into play to win a major championship. And I think the modern broadcast now shows that a little bit more and gets us to see some of those shots that are coming out of the the nether reaches of the golf course as well.
Well, exactly. And one of the things from the Masters this week, I guess, that we can just maybe finish off this topic, this discussion, and move into one of our other topics for this week. But one of the things this year is the elimination of the green books.
Well, they never had green books at Augusta anyways. They weren't allowed there. Right. So that was part. But now there's no green books overall on the tour. So it's always been an exceptional place for that aspect of it, for sure.
Right. And those greens are, I mean, and a major part of Augusta National is being able to translate the greens, slopes of the greens, because there is such significant. I apologize. I did realize Augusta doesn't have green books, but that is something going forward into other events that the players are no longer going to be allowed to use, which kind of gets me into the putting discussion, because a place like Augusta,
this could be a whole show, and it probably will be at some point. So we can talk about it in brief. How's that? Okay, so we'll try to be brief about it, but we see different things with putting now. I mean, we've always seen some, the putters themselves, mallet style, blade style. Okay, that's fine. That's equipment. Long putters,
long putters is something, anchoring is something that's changed over the years, trying to,
Mhm.
the purpose of all of these things that they've altered in the last number of years, particularly with anchoring the putter, is to try to take that,
It's to bring skill back
yeah, it's
into
to
the
bring skill
game,
back
apparently.
in, which
Yeah.
I guess, it kind of brings me to the sort of the first little piece of topic of conversation here is the long putter.
Mhm.
Don't see very many on the PGA Tour other than maybe Adam Scott using one. And I joke when I see it, and all the time, it's like, I call it a cheater stick. I don't like it. I
Mhm.
think he's still anchoring it. I know it doesn't. I think that there's still it just, and it's an opinion. Again, this is, let me just clarify that there's no factual data to this. There's no factual data to support that a long putter is makes it easier to make putts than a short putter, because obviously that's not the case. I just don't. I think in Adam Scott's case, why are you using it?
Are you going to be like one of the committee members at the USG? And I will say, without throwing anybody under the bus, but I've had discussions with people that were in those committee meetings when they were discussing the rule that changed the long putter. And it was very clear that it was based purely on aesthetics, and there was no data represented in making that change.
Right.
Now, that said, there's a difference, obviously, between a professional game and the amateur game.
Yes.
And how
that has to be clarified.
And that has to be clarified, because my opinion is that by altering and changing and reducing the ability for recreational golfers to enjoy themselves and have fun in non-handicap rounds,
yes,
I don't think is really acceptable. Like, I don't really care if a person is not, if I'm playing you, we can set up our own rules,
right,
of what we're trying to do in our match, in our game, or whatever. I get it relative to a handicap that's kept, that judges you against every other player in the world or Canada or whatever.
Yes.
You've got to follow the same guidelines or whatever. But if all of a sudden people were pushed out of the game for playing because they can't use the technique that they wanted to play on a recreational level, because they feel that they can't play, even though maybe they're not even doing handicap rounds, I don't think that was right. And I think things were done more on an aesthetic basis. I know they were. The number of revisions that were needed to change the language of that rule, I don't. And really, I mean, I get what they're trying to do, but there's also lots of other variations that probably provide more advantage than certain things that we already see out there.
Well, I guess that's my opinion. And maybe it's not so much maybe it's not so much the long putter that bothers me. And maybe it's more a case of, when you're putting, when you have two hands on your putter, whether it's, left hand low, right hand low, whatever way you're putting, or you have two hands on that putter and you're swinging it, that pendulum motion, so much can go wrong when you're putting that way. And I feel like that's part of the game. That's part of the competition of the game, is your nerves get into it. I have a tendency, again, it's personal. I have a tendency when I get a little nervous over a putt to get a little handsy. If I'm using a long putter and I'm allowed to anchor it, the old way of anchoring it, it generally would take that handsiness out, because my hands aren't really the only connection to the putter anymore. Now
the only problem is if we start to look at nuances like mass in a putter, we can take a standard putter and all of a sudden jam it up with as much weight as possible, and you're not able to apply as much force to change the direction of the path or the face angle. Is that a disadvantage?
I don't know. It's like leveling it's like, you feel like the playing field at the highest end of the game should be as level as possible, and that skill is
right.
Like you take a game like hockey, for instance, and I mean, I know this is a golf show, but hockey, for instance, the hockey stick has evolved. Okay,
right.
Let's face it. When I played, we used wooden sticks, and now they're using these composite things. Velocity of the shots are release and so on. But everybody has access to the same the same stick, right? So the sticks differ, but the sticks, it's the same stick, right? So I guess it's the same skates.
I'd argue it's not.
Well,
I would argue that if you look throughout the NHL and the top players of the world, that even though there are variances within the players and the skill of the athletes, that their equipment is fitted for them and performs differently for them, and can provide an advantage for them individually. So, I mean, there has to be room.
Yes.
Unless we're going to give everybody one thing. And if we give them one thing, now we're actually giving the advantage to some people that fits better too.
Well, I guess the difficulty is the only thing that the golf industry can really control when it comes to standardizing the playing field for competition is the golf ball. Because they can set, even though different manufacturers could do different things with the golf, if everybody was playing like again with hockey, we use the same puck.
Yeah.
You don't go to somebody's home rink and they use a different puck.
Yeah.
That's or tennis, they don't use a different tennis ball. Everybody in the tournament uses exactly the same tennis ball. No matter what tennis ball brand they practice with, they're all the same. But in golf, everybody's allowed to choose whatever golf ball they want to use. It performs, I guess fitting and stuff like that is a factor. It fits to the equipment that they're using, because we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago on the first episode with balls, that ball fitting is important because it matches up with the equipment that you're using. I know there's been discussion about, I think Nicholas was one of the ones talked about standardizing the golf ball, but do you see golf going that route? I mean, with more, you see now that the standardization or the maxing out of the length of a driver, which has obviously not had a negative effect necessarily on Brooke, but it could have had a negative effect on a player in a period of time while they got used to new equipment. But things like that, do you see more of that stuff happening even with putters, where they start to say, okay, well, the maximum length of a putter can be this, the maximum weight of a putter can be this, because there's so much differentiation between the different pieces of equipment that they're using. Do you think there's a standardization coming in something like that, like with the length of the driver?
Not that well defined. I mean, I think there's some variances that are there. There still has to be some variances. They have to also consider as well, there's a business side of the game versus the actual administration of the game. So the two things play a role, and they can't be distinctly separated apart. There has to be a business to the game or whatever, and not everybody's going to play with the exact same putter. Could they have implemented that? Yeah, sure. Technically, I guess they could, but I don't see them going that way. There are obviously a lot of equipment rules already in place that standardize a lot of things, but there's also really a lot of smart people that are working in the game to work around those particular things, to make certain things happen and to match up certain things with players. I think the individuality of the sport will always exist, and I think they still need that. I think in some ways, if we lose that and it all becomes the same, I think it really would drive some people out of the game more than anything. If you all of a sudden if I said to you, hey, you got to play this golf shaft of this flex and this weight and so forth, and it's standard and everyone has to do that, and you're not of the physical ability to make use of that product effectively based on your golf swing or physical needs or whatever, you know what? You're off playing tennis.
And
they have to be careful with that.
I don't think that's sort of where I think.
Yeah, but you're saying on tour?
Yeah, I'm thinking just of what they do at the professional level. But then again, we talk about that. We talk about, what they do at the professional level versus what they allow at the amateur level. But how do you at the amateur level? It's very easy at the professional level to have hard and fast, okay, this and this and this and this and this, because you're all everybody playing professional golf is playing professional golf for money, but everybody at the amateur level is not playing for handicaps and so on. Like not everybody that plays amateur golf even cares about their handicap.
It's a different game.
So how do you have a set? It's easy to have a set of rules for amateurs and a set of rules for professionals, but now you actually need to have a set of rules for professionals, a set of rules for competitive amateurs, and a set of rules for non-competitive amateurs. And then you're getting into, you could probably even divide it further than that.
Yeah.
It gets crazy.
And then it becomes more difficult because you got to remember the amateur that's out there wants to play the same game as the professional. They don't want to play a different game. On the other side of it, golf is inherently variable. Every surface that we play, every golf course that we play, every lie that we hit it into is different. So it's not a standardized one surface or whatever. Anyways, I think we're getting off on a tangent here.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think we can go further with this. What I would say though is, we'll look at maybe doing a couple shows around putting. I know you want to get into a little bit of, reading putts and things like that more. And we're talking to the aim point. Maybe we'll do a whole show around that. Maybe even some guests that are, have done some studies and some things like that, and maybe can present some different points. Would be entertaining. And I think, if people want to drop a comment down here on our YouTube channel or, on our any of our pages here for our audio for a podcast, and just, or send us a note about what they'd like to see in that topic, we'd be certainly interested. And that's something we can explore later on for another.
Yeah, sure. We're pretty much open to talking about anything.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we wrap up the front nine talking about, just talking quickly about the, this young Canadian that is planning to qualify for the U.S. Open. So why don't we just wrap up this side talking about that, and then we'll get into some other stuff.
Yeah, so the entries have come in for the U.S. Women's Open, which will take place this summer at Pine Needles down in Southern Pines, North Carolina. USG is reporting 1,874 entries, which is a record. It beats the previous record by one as far as the number of entries. Wow. I was talking to Brian Pasquale from the USGA, and he happily provided the fact that there are 52 players that are in that field for the entries that are, define Canada as their home country. And the youngest person in that entire field is an 11-year-old Canadian from Mirabel, Quebec, Leonie Tavares, who's a, competitive player. I think she won the Bantam division at the Graham Cook Invitational in the fall. I know she plays Florida State Golf Association events in the wintertime. They spend some time, her family, down in Florida in the wintertime. Just cool to see. It's not like there hasn't been a younger athlete before in the USGA Women's Open. But, to see that the youngest this year is an 11-year-old Canadian, taking her shot. It's an open event. Yeah. So, she meets the qualifications as far as index is concerned. So give it a whirl.
How cool is that? 11 years old.
Yeah.
11.
I know. Wow. Well, think about that now. Brooke Henderson was 14 and she won a pro event.
Yeah, I know. But yeah,
so Lydia Kell.
But there is a big difference. The 3 years is a big difference, when you're talking about your size and your power and your ability to play at that. I mean, 11 to 14, winning a professional event when you're 14 is extraordinary, obviously.
Yeah, but that's winning. I mean, she was already trying to qualify. There been Lucy Lee was playing in the U.S.
Yes, I recall
that early on.
Yeah,
who just almost won an Epson Tour event. There's lots of but it's neat to see that it is an 11-year-old from Canada this year that is the youngest in the field for qualifying.
Yes, and stress that it is qualifying.
Is qualifying.
In the field.
No. Brooke Henderson is the only Canadian that's guaranteed a spot in the field right now. She's exempt into it, but we'll see how everyone makes out in the qualifying to come.
Awesome. All right. Well, as expected, there's a lot of discussion, a lot of talk, but that's what this podcast is all about, everybody. I mean, that's, who knows where things are going to go. We kind of get in our heads some things that we want to talk about, and then we just let it happen. So sometimes it's going to run on a little longer than maybe we expect it will, but it's we have no timelines on any of this stuff. There's no clock up here saying, oh, we got to get out in 10 or anything like that. We just talk, and when we're done talking, we move on to the next topic. So we will move on to the next topic, but first off, we got to pay some bills. So we're going to get out here for a quick minute and for a word from TaylorMade Golf Canada, our presenting sponsor. And then when we get back, though, we're going to get into Product Watch, and we're going to talk about golf carts. I think that'll be an interesting conversation that might go on for a while, too. So don't go away. Stay with us.
Over the past 40 years, you've inspired us to make a lot of great drivers. All great, but all eventually reach their limit. But while we were making all these drivers for the present, we were also hard at work making the next generation of driver. because where titanium ends, carbon begins.
All right, and we are back. We're going to change gears now and switch over and to our product watch segment, brought to you by Greensmere Golf and Country Club. Save 40% on all-day green fee rates with Flex Pass for only $425 plus tax. Visit greensmere.com for more information to pick yourself up a Flex Pass. All right, Scott, we're going to get into product watch, and let's just kind of lead into that by. We're going to get into talking about a specific golf cart that we just featured on flagstick.com recently. But I just wanted to get into the golf cart boom a little bit, if you will, because this kind of goes with everything that's been going on over the last couple of years with the whole pandemic and the growth of golf. There's also been a boom in certain categories of golf equipment, and golf carts has been one of them, right?
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, we saw early on in the pandemic, once golf was allowed, that there was some restrictions in power cart usage, and not everybody was down with it. Not everybody wanted to jump on a power cart and be with somebody, because we didn't know much about what was happening with the COVID-19 at that point. So we saw a lot of people take up walking, and because they were people that were used to a power cart, they wanted something to go with their golf clubs and to help them along with that. They weren't going to necessarily grab a golf bag and strap it onto their back, but push carts, definitely walking carts became super popular, hard to get.
Very
one of those, and this was before the supply chain issues that really sort of came in and have restricted things sort of now, and we'll get to that. But that category just boomed to the point that you couldn't get a push cart. So trying to get one was near impossible. People were phoning all over the place. Golf pros said, "Hey, I'm sold out. I can't get any for a while." And we just saw, I guess to a good point, we saw more people walking the golf courses, and which was nice to see. But yeah, certainly that category became bigger. It wasn't that we were seeing more manufacturers jump in.
No, I was going to say, like, it hasn't been that there's been an addition of new players in that market. It's just, it's just more people purchasing, inside that market. And then of course we see more of an evolution to the product in that segment as well. Not that we haven't seen a big change over the years in golf cart technology and whatnot, but just in the last couple of years,
we did see things that were like, we saw a lot of the development of more motors that would go on push carts. That was definitely a segment that was growing. It hadn't sort of had its, it hadn't kind of reached its peak yet. It was sort of a fringe type thing that you could go to the PGA show and you see a number of manufacturers that had, these powered devices that you could add to your push cart, and that would power them and sort of convert them to a remote trolley or whatever. But that market continued to grow. But yeah, in essence, what you've seen now is, if we look back 25 years and remember selling, push carts as they were, it was really pull carts is what they were called before then. And then what we saw was the evolution in about 1999 or so. We started to see Sun Mountain, which is a brand that we're going to get to here today, coming out with a 3-wheel push cart. Companies like Bag Boy and so forth, and they were converting to a different product, one that you would push along, had a little bit more stability. And what we saw though was they started to grow as far as accessories were concerned. So more elements, and for yourself, even the products that you use as far as a push cart and whatever, umbrella holders, storage containers below where you could put your water bottle, cart pockets where or containers where you could put in your scorecard, and all of a sudden things where you put in snacks, cooler bags, seats. I mean, every accessory possible. And this,
you can say it existed.
Yeah, and it boomed into a category that we never imagined, and here we are 23 years later after Sun Mountain introduced their first speed cart, talking about what they now call their speed cart V1R. And what's really happened is that the handles have been redesigned. We get a little bit more comfortable. They start redesigning bag brackets so that they, secure the bag better. They're easier to put the bag on and off. Just a lot more standard features in these carts. Yeah. Because at first, when we saw a lot of those push carts coming out, it was just a push cart. That was it. And then you had to buy the extra pieces to go onto that. Well, now, most of these things are kind of like, it's kind of like a car with more accessories.
Oh, man, it's incredible.
They just come standard with them. So, this year, they've got other spots you can put your phone in. We're seeing ones, not this one in particular. We're seeing other ones looking at, do we put a battery in there and a place for a USB port? The Sun Mountain one here, it's got a spot where you can put your GPS rangefinder. There's just more and more that comes into here. Cigar holders, sand and seed holders. It's insane where they've gone.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, because I do recall, I mean, when you and your partner Jim back in the day had the golf shop down in Kingston, and I was working there with you guys. Of course, that's, we've never really told the story to anybody of how we met, and we're not going to get into that right now.
We might have to do a whole podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But we used to get like the two-wheeled carts, before the three-wheel, the two-wheeled carts come in, and how many repairs? Like, honestly, how many carts come back with broken wheels? And my God, it was insane. Yeah. And now you look at them, and like I have a Sun Mountain cart that I've been using for a number of years, but it has like rubber tires and metal spoked rim and a brake, and mine's pretty basic compared to some of the ones that are on the market now, in particular this Sun Mountain cart we're going to talk about, but it's pretty basic compared to that one, and it's not really that basic. Like it's incredible where these things have come, and they're easy to push around, easy to move. Some of them have rotating third wheels on them. Some of them your bag doesn't lean on as much; it more stands straight up and down. It's just it's crazy. So why don't we talk about the cart that we featured on flagstick.com, because that's sort of what sparked this whole topic for this episode is the new Sun Mountain cart. So why don't we talk about that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, speed cart has really been the mainstay for Sun Mountain, and you would have a speed cart, but this is the V1R version of it. Comes in 10 colors, folds down fairly easy. I mean, it's just, again, it's crazy. It has optional accessories like cooler pouches, covers, seats, cigar holders. I mean, seed and mix a holder, whatever that you want, you can have in these carts. And, they basically have sort of evolved them to make them better and better, more streamlined, as you said, lighter, still stronger, trying to keep them as well so that they don't wear out as much. And I mean, a lot of these companies worked hard over the years, and we're not talking, as you said, about the 1950s vintage all steel bag boys that you used to have.
Those things last forever.
They did last forever, but I mean, I and you brought it up, and I really even forgot about it. I mean, people used to come in, and they're like, "Hey, I got this cart, and I got it in 1972, and can I get a wheel for it?" And at that time, Golf Trends is a distributor in Canada, and they had all these parts and stuff for it. So I used to have repair tags and stuff. Don't have to do that as much these days. And the V1R, just a continual evolution of the speed cart more than anything. I guess the hardest part really is going to be, getting them more than anything, because they're really sold out really, really fast. The other neat part about these carts now, especially the V1R, really easy. It's a two-step open and close process, really easy to flip it in and out of your car, because again, it's hard enough when you get golf clubs in the back of your vehicle, but when you put a cart in there as well, if you don't have storage at your golf course, you want it to be very simple to get it open and closed and be able to kind of go right away. And if you have to all of a sudden have a PhD in an instruction book to get your cart open, it's not going to be so much fun.
And unlike the predecessors from the 1950s and 60s, they don't weigh 1,000 pounds. You can't get a small workout in by taking it out of the back of your car and doing the curls, getting your pump on while you're your cart in and out of your car. So they are lightweight to, even though they are, a lot of them, made out of metal materials now, and they're not, they're lightweight aluminums and lightweight steel. They're light.
You're still I still with the Sun Mountain, I think you're still just under 18 pounds. But if you think of some of those bag boy ones, they were
They're 118 pounds. Those, I know my dad had one, and I used it when I first started playing golf.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You had to unscrew the little thing and lower the handle, and you push it down, and the wheels collapse. And the whole thing was made out of probably the same kind of pipe, steel pipe that they the galvanized steel pipe. The thing was so heavy.
Yeah. So, and other manufacturers have obviously, followed suit. As we mentioned, Bag Boy has continued to evolve. They don't Click Gear, another one, Big Max. There's a number of manufacturers that are in this market and certainly have become quite popular for good reasons. And, it's endless as far as the features now. And the one good part about these two is that, it's a product that you're not going to have to replace normally every single year. You kind of buy one, you probably have it. I mean, how long have you had the one you have now?
10 years. I mean,
right, exactly.
It's got to be 10 years.
Yeah. So, the design, doesn't change that much. You might want particular features or whatever, but as it is right now, a lot of the ones that you'd buy, even though, the cost is kind of getting up there as far as some of these carts, in the $300 neighborhood or whatever, if you're going to have it and use it for every single round, you're going to have it for 5 to 7 years, let's say, it's still pretty good value.
Well, and again, it's like you can always get something less expensive, and that's fine. Don't discourage anybody from spending less money if that's what's in the budget.
Right.
But spending the money on something like this, it's a long-term investment. You want to buy it now. Sun Mountain is not expecting someone to buy one this year and buy another one next year and buy another one the year after that and buy another one. They'd love it, I'm sure, if that happened. But it's something you buy and you have for maybe 5 years. 10 years if you're me, depending on how much you play. It's an investment in a long-term investment in your game. So
I think one of the neat things now too is the uptake within junior golfers.
Yeah. You don't see them carrying as much anymore, eh?
No, you don't. And I mean, I know for myself, I like to carry. But I'm also at a golf course where, we have a fleet of carts that you can make use of. So I haven't jumped to getting one of my own, although I probably should. But I certainly push a lot more than carry because, it's not great on the shoulders, not great on the back.
No.
And once you start to do it, and, juniors figure that out, especially if they're playing tournaments and they want to bring their snacks with them and all sorts of different things. Pretty hard just to load all that stuff up and put it in a golf bag and carry it when you can obviously be pushing it and it's not going to put as much strain on your body.
Hey, look at my 15-year-old has a push cart. He's been using one since he was probably 10. It's just I think it's just better. I mean, I'm not saying don't carry your bag, but why would you? Why would you? Why would you? I know it's that you can walk places easy. You can like grab your bag and walk across the green with your bag on to get to your next hole. It's like shortens the walking distance to some places, but save your back.
And in most cases, if you're going to have a push cart, you probably have a bag that probably has more pockets and more stuff in it anyways. If you're going to carry, there's lots of lightweight options. And, we can look at that at another show and start talking about some, even the, the bag that we have this year as part of our registration package for the Flagstick Open.
Yes.
We have a very lightweight bag in there. So we can get in that in Product Watch in another show and talk about walking and some lightweight carries.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so if you want to learn a little bit more about that push cart from Sun Mountain, just go to flagstick.com. It's right there under the product watch section. It's probably in one of the top 3 spots right now. And then you can move yourself onto Sun Mountain's website from there if you want more details, but you can drop into flagstick.com to check it, the basic information and some photos and whatnot. Okay, so Scott, as always, we want to help people with their golf game. Give them some little drills here and there, some little tips, and that we have our resident golf pro, Kevin Haim, former national teacher of the year at Kevin Haim Golf School, that is graciously doing these tips for us all season long on every episode, and we're into the 3rd one. So let's get on to the lesson tee with Kevin Haim Golf School. It's always the right time to play better, whether you need private lessons, a better short game, some putting help, or heaven forbid you need new golf clubs and you need to get those things custom fit for what you're spending on golf clubs nowadays. Get them custom fit. You can visit kevinhaim.com and remember that better golf is a lot more fun. Now, this week, Kevin has a downswing drill that seems to be one of his favorites that he wants to share with people. So let's get into the lesson tee and check that out.
All right, golfers, time for another quick tip, and this is one of my favorites, a little drill that can help you with your sequence or your downswing, that little magic move to start your swing properly. If you swing back the club properly, you should be able to stop at the top, look around, have a ham sandwich, and still release down through the golf ball properly. If you can't do that, then you know something's wrong, and it's really important to get this right, because this is really your delivery position to get that golf club moving into that golf ball. So next time you're practicing, hit a few balls, swing up, stop, see if you can swing down properly. If you can't, get to a PGA Pro. If you can, work at it for timing. That's your quick tip for today. For more, check me out on Twitter at Kevin Haim or any social media platform.
All right. Well, thanks again, Kevin, and the Kevin Haim Golf School for that's one of his favorite tips or favorite drills to teach people to help them with their downswing, Scott. And as a PGA of Canada Pro, I mean, the downswing is a pretty important part. Loading and unloading the golf club. Yeah. But what's sort of your take on that yourself?
Yeah, I mean, for certainly. I mean, the downswing usually in most golf swings takes a third of the time of the backswing. So, what Kevin's kind of referring to as far as, he's referring to the sequence a lot here as far as that downswing, putting yourself in a position where, you've got everything organized and you're ready to make that downswing. His take here is, a little bit of a pause in there and feel that you're kind of gathered up and ready to make that downswing. So certainly a lot of people, maybe, from a pace perspective, they think they're going to gain a lot of speed by swinging in, half a second for the whole swing. But I will tell you that in most golf swings are closer to about 2 seconds total, and that the backswing takes a greater portion of that, and a downswing being only, a quarter to 0.3 of a second. Yeah, you definitely have to get yourself a little bit more organized for a proper sequence within your golf swing.
All right. Well, you can check that out. If you're listening to the podcast, you can go to flagstick.com and or go to our YouTube channel and check out the tip visually on the YouTube channel. And, maybe there's something there that can help you out. So thanks to Kevin and the Kevin Haim Golf School for that. Now, Scott, usually we try to talk about all of the regional golf topics and so on in the front nine of the podcast, but we had so much to jam in there. We thought this one topic or this one item that we wanted to get to, we'd leave to the very end of the show because it relates more to Flagstick and Flagstick events. But obviously the popularity of the Flagstick Open is no surprise. We talked about it on the last episode that it's sold out. The waiting list is continuing to grow. And I'd like to say that we'll do our best to get everybody in, but honestly, it's out of my control. We have a field of 120. We can't have more. We won't have less. And we have, but don't discourage from not getting your name on the waiting list, because it costs you nothing to put your name there and you might get in. There's always a chance. So go to Flagstick, the Flagstick Open or flagstickopen.com and register, at least get yourself on the waiting list. But we do have some good news.
We do.
We decided at the beginning of this year, the end of last year, we decided that we wanted to add a second event, and we worked very closely with Brockville Country Club to come up with a concept and an idea for an event. And we did sort of launch the registration of it, but we knew that the timing of it was late to try to really make it happen. And it showed in, obviously our registrations for it were not what we wanted them to be. And we really don't like the idea of doing an event if it can't be, at the level that we want it to be at. So we kind of pulled the plug on it last year and said, you know what, let's go back to the drawing board on this. The concept of the event is fine. We all like that. We just need to tweak it a little bit and relaunch. And fortunately, Brockville Country Club was once again, they're all in. They understood last year. They're all in to do this again, to launch it again this year. And so we are going to be launching the Flagstick Two-Ball event, Flagstick Two-Ball Championship at Brockville Country Club in September 11th and 12th, I believe, are the dates.
10th, 11th.
And it's a two-person best ball event. And let's just get into something. We don't.
Yeah.
All the details aren't out there yet. Most of them are, but we do know the format and of the event, and we decided to do something unique, right, Scott, with this as opposed to just a single player stroke play event.
Yeah, we had the BCC Open before when we had a series of events, the BMG Cup series, and it was always a great venue. Everybody enjoyed playing the historic golf course at Brockville. Definitely test you around the green sometime, but we had some great players over the years, including we mentioned Brooke Henderson.
Yeah.
She was the only female that ever played in that series, and she finished second in the event the one year. We just decided that stroke play is fun, but not everybody wants to play a stroke play individual tournament. It's nice to
especially in the fall.
Especially in the fall, they've gotten through the year. They want to have a little bit more fun. You want to have a little bit of backup. I know from playing in the pro, I enjoy that tournament more than any because, you've got a partner to sort of there to kind of bail you out. We played in a number of member guest tournaments together and international pairs and all sorts of different things.
It's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It's enjoyable. So we wanted to have something that was maybe a little bit more social a little bit, and not to say that it's not going to be competitive. But the cool part is we had already had a beautiful trophy commissioned, a Stanley Thompson trophy.
Hang on a second. Okay.
Hang on a second.
Got it? You keep talking. I'm going to hang on a second.
Talking. All right. So, we commissioned this trophy for the tournament in honor of Stanley Thompson, who was key to the design at the Brockville Country Club. And we had a local artist. There you go. The Toronto Terror himself. We had a local artist. Right. We had a local artist commission it, and it's stunning, and it is the Toronto Terror, as he was known, Stanley Thompson, obviously Canada's most renowned golf architect, and the Stanley Thompson Trophy is now back into play after sitting for some time, and now will be part of the festivities at the new Two-Ball Championship. So I think everybody's going to enjoy that. Yeah, it's solid.
This is not plastic. This is this is beautiful, beautiful trophy. It's nice that it's coming back into into the fold, and it's going to be given out, and it's going to have names on it and going to be used. And we're really hoping that long term that this event kicks off well and is received well, and it grows much like the Flagstick Open has.
So it'll be just to let people know, it is going to be a 2-round tournament. We'll have a lot of the same type of things that you would see at the Flagstick Open. You can expect the same sort of environment that's well organized, as far as the event. And as we said, the whole team, Jason Walmark and their whole team, Adam Miller, all their team there at Brockville Country Club is eager and excited to host this championship as a way to sort of get towards the end of the year. So a good way as well, if people are looking at maybe playing in some of the fall scrambles and stuff like that, they can get together with maybe one of their buddies or that they were planning to play with, and have a competitive environment before that season sort of begins, and but not put as much pressure on you as a solo tournament would.
And that was the thing I think we talked about when we were looking at the format of different events, and we wanted to get more into and we're still looking at we are still looking at potentially another event in the summer, but it is really difficult to get golf courses to host. They're full, and there just isn't the availability. So we're very, very thankful that the Brockville Country Club was excited and happy to jump on board with us and do this. And we'll see what happens, throughout the summer, if we're able to get another event going this year, if it's something that we look for 2023. But we did not want to do just another fall scramble, because we did look at the idea of doing that, but there's just so many of them out there, and everybody's got a fall scramble. We wanted some uniqueness, something that was competitive, but a little bit more fun and different. And that's why the Stableford style, and being a 2-ball event is just it really is a pressure-free, competitive, fun event. There's no doubt that the level of competition will likely be very good. There will be some good teams in it. There's no question about that. And the prizing is going to be phenomenal, as it always is for events that we put on. registration package will be pretty darn good too, which is kind of, somewhat becomes synonymous with events that we put on. So look for that registration to open very soon. We're just ironing out a couple more little details that we want to have nailed down before we open it up. But I suspect it will be opened up not long after the golf season really gets ramped up, probably in May, maybe if not before. So look for that at flagstick.com. Plus there will be a website. I think Flagstick Two-Ball.com is going to be the URL for the website, but we haven't launched that part of it yet either. So that's our little Flagstick tidbit. So check that out. Man, the time passes, Scott, when we get Gab, and it's funny because Monday morning it's interesting that we do record this podcast. I know it's released on Wednesday usually, but we record it on Monday. But Monday morning, I'm usually jumping in my car and going somewhere, and I get on the phone with you shortly after 9 o'clock, and we just out it comes.
So this basically, sorry everyone, this is our phone call.
This is it. This is the Monday morning phone call, and we just happen to sprinkle in some Kevin Haim golf instruction in there, and the
occasional interview, and
maybe an interview. And this week, you noticed that there was no interview this week. We had lots of stuff to talk about. And,
we did.
We don't always have to have a guest on to have some discussion points. We can certainly talk enough ourselves. So
good or bad.
Exactly. Well, man, I'm sorry to see the end of the show, but we'll have another one next week. We should make sure that we thank our sponsors, Metcalf Golf Club, Greensboro Golf and Country Club, Kevin Haim Golf School, of course, our presenting sponsor, TaylorMade Golf Canada. Check out the new Stealth line of golf equipment at taylormadegolf.ca, and welcome to the Carbon Wood Age. Well, I really hope that everybody enjoyed listening or watching us this episode this week. Be sure to follow us across the social media network, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Subscribe to us on Spotify and Audible, and now on Apple Podcasts. It is up, it is there, so you can check it out. All those Apple people that want it on Apple Podcasts, it's there. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like us and click the notification bell to make sure that you never ever miss an episode of this podcast. Get yourself over to flagstick.com for even more great golf content delivered every single day. We're done for another week. I am Jeff Botter.
And I'm Scott McLeod.
Remember, always go for the stick.